It's time now for the week that was. Let's take a look at the top stories that made headlines across the globe this week. And we're starting here in Nigeria, where the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Mele Kyari, said the removal of petrol subsidy by President Bola Tinubu has brought about price parity. Kyari spoke against the backdrop of the recent hike in fuel prices by NNPC retail outlets to 1,030 naira per litre from 898 naira per litre. Speaking on the importance of fuel subsidy in June last year, Kyari said that it led to an end to price arbitrage and disincentivized fuel smuggling to neighboring countries. Tinubu, at the inception of his administration on the 29th of May 2023, had announced the removal of subsidy on petrol, leading to a rise in the pump price of the commodity to above 570 naira per litre from around 238 naira per litre. Well, petrol prices, I mean, we did see this coming. I believe just on this table, we spoke about how petrol prices were increasing substantially and it seemed with no end in sight. Now, for me, what the Group CEO of NNPC is saying, it's talking about price parity, it's talking about disincentivizing smuggling, but it's not talking about the effect to the average Nigerian person of the price increase. And that's something for me that is shocking. The administration keeps coming out with these policies that look good on paper, that are trying to punish criminal elements with no eye on what it's actually doing for the average person. The increase, the over tenfold increase in the nearly tenfold increase in the price of petrol from 238 naira per litre to 1,030 naira per litre. That's 5 times more expensive. At the same time, the naira has lost 70% of its value. We have food inflation in double digits, over 30%. We have inflation increase, and we have a reduction in the subsidizing of electricity. So not just is our power grid collapsing, but it's also more expensive to get power. And it reminds me of when they said there was a naira redesign to disincentivize criminals, but at the same time, farmers couldn't plant their crops. Regular Nigerians could not get money to go about their daily lives, to pay for their children's school fees, to buy food in the market. All these policies, it seems that they're not keyed in to what people are actually going through.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Adesua. And welcome back from all your trips, by the way.
Thank you. What a way to come back.
To see. You're back to the same issues, like most Nigerians. I think that if Mr. Mele Kyari doesn't have anything soothing to say to Nigerians, I think that he should keep quiet because nobody wants to listen to him at this point. If what he's saying is to provide justification for 1,000 plus that Nigerians are now buying a litre of petrol, I think that is being disingenuous. I hate this idea of ceaseless demonization of the word subsidy. So what are we referring to when we say that subsidy has been removed? Are we talking about what happened on the 29th of May of last year that the president did against, all the advice even from his own team? Or are we dealing with the fact that even NNPCL didn't come out clean, to Nigerians about the fact that even after the president, had said that subsidy was gone last year, up till, July, August this year, we were still paying subsidy. So which of the subsidies is he talking about that has just been removed? In any case, why are we celebrating the fact that the government basically threw up his hands and declaring that they were not able to deal with the fraud associated with subsidy? World Bank has just released a report with Nigerian media houses are now calling, and also publishing about the fact that even America, not to talk of practically all the countries in the Middle East, and a few countries in Europe like Luxembourg, etc., still pay some forms of subsidies on fuel usage in their country. So why are we continuing to demonize the word subsidy when in actual fact, what the government failed to do was to deal with the fraud associated with subsidy? And my point has always been that as bad as the subsidy regime of that time was, at least 30 to 35% of the amount that of what was being subsidized, reached the masses directly. Directly, those who needed to buy petrol, not just to fuel their cars because they wanted cheap fuel, but because they need to power their small businesses. Small businesses that buy. Adelabu is now saying that it's no longer required, which is very incorrect because people still purchase petrol to power small businesses all over the country, including Lagos, including Abuja, where you have a substantial, section of Bande. So I think people like Mele Kyari should be reminded of series of reports that 90, has done on this fuel subsidy regime, and it has not always been bad the way they are painting it. How much did Obasanjo's government and Yar'Adua's government pay on subsidy? Until the election of 2011, that we crossed the 1 trillion naira mark because of the election that was coming. Subsidy had never crossed 300 billion naira in Nigeria. So they are not being truthful. And Mele Kyari, should be ashamed of himself when he goes on and on and on about justification, people, exporting and stuff. No, yes. That's not what we want to hear.
I mean, well, speaking about the World Bank has released its latest Nigeria Development Update report. And what is the headline? A $5.9 billion surge in foreign exchange reserves, signaling the early successes of the country's reforms. But while there is progress, there are also pressing challenges, including soaring inflation and the urgent need for more profound structural changes. Arise News correspondent Nkechi Nana reports.
Since May 2023, Nigeria has implemented bold reforms to avert a looming fiscal crisis. These efforts have brought about modest economic growth, rising foreign exchange reserves, and a healthier fiscal position. According to the latest World Bank Nigeria Development Update report, this signals that the country's economic reforms are starting to pay off a little. While the macroeconomic indicators show improvement, the report, titled Staying the Course, Progress Amid Pressing Challenges, recognizes that households are still grappling with inflationary pressures. Rising gasoline prices and devastating floods have pushed inflation up once again in September 2024. And it is this reality that the World Bank warns must be urgently addressed.
We know that many Nigerians are struggling with high inflation and rising cost of living. So, progress is real. But so are the struggles of many citizens, which the team actually will elaborate on later. The report's message is clear. We need to stick to the plan and keep moving forward. Turning back or opposing the reforms would only make things worse. Staying the course is essential for securing a better future for all Nigerians. But the effort must be accompanied by reforms enabling the private sector to create more and better jobs with targeted support to youth and the women.
So, where do we go from here? The report lays out a roadmap for Nigeria's government. First, the central bank must stay the course with its tight monetary policy until inflation is firmly under control. And the foreign exchange market must continue to reflect true market conditions. To reduce risk, the World Bank advises the government to maintain the removal of false subsidies and eliminate wasteful spending.
And the key message is really that in the macroeconomic and fiscal data, we are starting to see clear early indications that the policy direction that the government has been on is starting to show results with reduced fiscal pressure, with monetary policy stabilization, and with support to the process of really rebuilding confidence in the Naira. So the key message coming from that is the importance of staying the course on this reform direction, and we have a whole array of more specific recommendations for interested readers.
Reacting to the World Bank report, the Bauchi State Governor emphasizes that government policies must deliver tangible results for the people.
This thing should be well structured, and the achievement in that area should be tangible. Ordinary Nigerians must benefit it must reduce cost. Inflation has gone very high. It has made nonsense all the wages and salaries being collected.
As Nigeria navigates this crucial period of reform, the world watches to see how the country stays the course and manages the complex balance between growth, inflation, and the welfare of its citizens. Nkechi Nana, Arise News.
Well, Mr. Steve, how do you see?
I mean, World Bank has been in the news, on the state of the Nigerian economy, all through the week. And of course, if you want to be fair to this government, especially in the areas of some monetary reforms, showing more than $6 billion, increase in foreign reserves and stuff. Of course, you wouldn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You will want to acknowledge that on paper, in the books, it looks like a few things are appreciably, showing the positive sign. But can we stay the course, as World Bank is suggesting, if on the one hand you are insisting that yes, subsidy must be removed, and it's been removed. We do not know if it has been totally removed. But it's being removed because it has to deal with the vagaries of foreign exchange market and the price of crude, as they say.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it says that remove completely all forms of wastage in government. Is the government adhering to that admonition from the World Bank? I doubt it, and that's part of the reasons why many Nigerians are saying that if we are tightening our belts, but we see what the executive, the legislature, all of them are doing, and Nigerians are not happy with that. In any case, part of the issue will be that which of the recommendations of the World Bank, and other Bretton Woods institutions, should we take over, the ones that we need to tweak, so that we ask President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to borrow some wisdom from both Obasanjo and Buhari, who said that, yes, deal with World Bank and IMF fairly, but then don't necessarily take all their recommendations because of the type of economy that we are running. So while it might look good on paper, but then we see where we are in terms of inflation. We see where we are in terms of the fact that things are just no longer the same. And we now know for a fact that 129 million Nigerians are now in multidimensional poverty. 14 more million people in the last 12 months.
I really appreciate that you brought that up, because regardless of the monetary policy that has helped us increase our foreign revenue, our foreign reserves, rather, you also have the issue that we do not have proper fiscal policy. This is something that even the World Bank has called out. This is something that the CEO of JP Morgan called out earlier this week. We do not have proper fiscal policy. It's why we can't bring capital, proper investment into the country. And we've been honing in on this cry out for the coordinating minister of the economy to do something, because you cannot be fighting with one hand and then you have no problem. On the other hand, it's like you're throwing everything away. There is nothing you can do when inflation is this high. That is what His Excellency the Governor of Bauchi said in that report. He said that inflation is making nothing out of
very
people.
Spot on.
Very spot on.
And I like the fact that he was candid.
He's very candid. Inflation is making people's salaries mean nothing. And so, yes, we have more foreign reserves, but what does that do to the average man on the street who can't eat 3 square meals a day? It means nothing to him. And that's the point, it's honing in on this point of bringing your policies to the people, having people-centered policies. Let the actual, the normal Nigerian man's cries and issues be what is guiding your policy, because if that's not the case, we're going to have on paper a country where our debt burden has been reduced, our reserves are higher, but you have not only 14 million people added into poverty in the last year, but 12 million more at the risk of falling into poverty in the upcoming year. And those numbers, it's the whole population of Ireland and Norway and Finland combined.
Precisely.
That has fallen into poverty in 1 year.
Yeah, not good enough. not good enough.
It's not good enough. And when we're talking about, this inflation, it's also because they have not done preventative measures. When we're talking about the floods, when we're talking about agriculture, that's, I do really wonder what our coordinating minister is coordinating. Because, yes, we see the CBN fighting tooth and nail with the monetary policy, but the fiscal policy is just not there.
The sort of synergy that Nigerians expected from the coordinating minister of the economy and the CBN governor, sadly, we're not yet, we're not seeing it. Let's hope that they will work on that. We move on. The National Security Advisor, Malam Nuhu Ribadu, revealed that many illicit arms used in crimes across Nigeria originally belonged to the government, having been transferred to terrorists and bandits by corrupt security personnel. Speaking at an arms destruction event in Abuja, Ribadu condemned this act, vowing severe consequences for any officer caught in the future. 2,400 obsolete and recovered illicit weapons were destroyed in the presence of military chiefs and stakeholders during the event. Ribadu emphasized that these arms fuel much of the violence in the country, and the government is committed to enhancing national security. Well, that looks like just a destruction of what originally belonged to government, but found their way into the hands of terrorists and bandits. Maybe on the one hand, we should thank the government, particularly the security authorities, for at least retrieving these arms and ammunition. But then I'm not so sure about the aspect of destroying them. Is it that they are no longer useful? If we've collected them from the wrong hands,
yes,
and we can, take them back in, and reassign them, wouldn't that be better? I'm not sure at the time that we're still, budgeting more money for arms and ammunition.
Well, I said some of them were decommissioned, so some of them are unserviceable. So that means some of them needed to be destroyed because they still can't be used. Of the 2,400, it's not clear how many were unserviceable and how many were decommissioned, how many were no longer useful. I also, I don't know why we don't recycle in this age of global warming.
Absolutely.
I think what you're saying is very important. I remember, when I saw this story, I remember growing up as a child. And when armed robbers attacked my grandmother's house, they had live bullets, and the police that we called said they don't have bullets. And I think that it's not a very unique Nigerian story. The story I just told is that people have these personal, experiences, and it's like
bullets. Did they have fuel? That's what you call them.
Exactly. So and when we talk about the structure, I think what the NSA has done here, Madam Nuribadu, is very important. That he's called out the fact that it's not that we have importation of illicit arms that you do have in some, like for example, Central African countries. He's saying that the arms that we're seeing in our terrorists and our bandits and our kidnappers are coming from the security services.
Stolen from Nigeria.
Yes,
from Nigerian government.
And he's saying that it's not just as though they were stolen also from an armory, for example, but that we have active servicemen who are dealing in this illicit trade. And I think what he's doing is not just a signal to the Nigerian people, it's also a signal to those bad actors within the service, as in that we see you and we know what you're doing and we're coming for you. Now, what I want to see after this sort of event is actual people being arrested and being put on trial, because that at the end of the day, we need consequences for these bad actors.
It should be encouraged to do more.
Yes, and it should be definitely very public.
Yes.
Well, now back to Abuja, where the Senate during the week launched an investigation into allegations that operatives from the Department of State Services, DSS, had taken over the National Assembly in a bid to impeach Senate President Godswill Akpabio. Now, Akpabio denied these claims, describing them as unfounded rumors, and tasked Senator Shehu Kaka with reporting on the situation within 24 hours. Now, the rumors emerged from reports suggesting that northern senators were plotting Akpabio's impeachment due to dissatisfaction with President Bola Tinubu's administration. In a show of confidence, senators passed a resolution backing Akpabio's leadership during a recent plenary session. Now, it's so bizarre to think that to show dissatisfaction to the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency, that we would have senators rising against the Senate president, because the Senate, again, is an independent arm of government, or is supposed to be an independent arm of government. The head of the Senate is supposed to be the head of the legislative arm of government. Now, I mean, this story is... I'm not even entirely sure what to make of it. Was DSS in the Senate building? Were they not in the Senate building? It does remind me of the plot or alleged plots to impeach now Senator Aminu Tambuwal when he was Speaker of the House, and we had armed operatives shooting tear gas in the National Assembly complex. We had distinguished distinguished members of the House climbing a fence and a gate, I believe. So, I mean, luckily for us, we didn't see that type of action last week.
No, we didn't see that type of action. I think what is worrying about the whole development, during the week will be the alleged involvement of the DSS in there. I'm not sure that DSS had a role in there, and sadly, DSS is yet to formally and comprehensively clarify issues, given also that there are rumors that a certain journalist who published, something to do with that reportage of DSS being involved in that scenario had been picked up in a very violent and inhumane manner, allegedly. So DSS will need to be clear as to the role that they played or they didn't play, because that's how you deal with citizens in a democracy. Now, to the National Assembly itself or to the Senate, it should be totally up to the senators, who are all elected by their constituents, to deal with the issues that they reckon affect them. If there are some senators who are dissatisfied with either the conduct of the Senate president or the manner in which the Senate president, is kowtowing to the executive, it's something that should be looked at. It's something that can be debated.
Our Senate president did wear the president's insignia, a hat with the president's insignia, to plenary. No, he did. What do you signal by wearing the bat logo, as they call?
It was a joke, wasn't it? I mean, I don't...
Is it a joke? We have institutions. When we have people who believe they are bigger than institutions or comport themselves in a manner to seem as though they believe they're bigger than the institutions, because the separation of the three arms of government is incredibly important.
The Senate president needs good managers of his conduct and his PR and everything. But the issue of during the week that, that we're talking about in terms of the DSS and everything, it's even beyond the inanities associated with the Senate president. It's about the fact that if there is dissatisfaction, a groundswell of dissatisfaction, in spite of the vote of confidence on him, by a section of the senators, I do not think that maybe it should necessarily die there. Let the senators exhaust, their debate as to what is proper, so that, we won't continue with this hush-hush, let's kill the idea kind of a thing.
Yes.
All right, we'll proceed. More than 160 people have been killed and more than 50 others injured following a Tuesday petrol tanker explosion that occurred along the Kano-Adejia Expressway in Taura local government area of Jigawa State. Police spokesperson Lawan Adam said the accident occurred at midnight in Majia town after the tanker driver lost control of the vehicle while traveling on the highway. The driver involved had traveled about 110 kilometers from the neighboring Kano State. Dr. Aruna Meriga, head of the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, says 97 people were burned to ashes at the scene, while 8 others died at the hospital. I think that is where our condolences first to the families of the victims, and I think, of course, to the government of Jigawa State.
Yes.
That was a horrendous, very horrific development during the week. Many people have spoken about it, and I like the fact that a lot of people are saying that this shouldn't be the type of a thing that should be treated as though that, as if that's how their creator wanted it, as many people like to say, when tragic events happens. I think that it is important that the government of Jigawa State carries out a comprehensive investigation and see if there was negligence in any aspect of what happened, so that people can at least be sanctioned, and then you'll be able to ensure that something like that does not happen again. 97 people burned to ashes. 8 still struggling, I believe, for their life. It's not just good enough. We're losing too many people on our scores, and this, in my opinion, would have been an avoidable kind of tragedy if people have been alert, to what they do.
Definitely. It's honestly completely a tragedy. Like, this is a tragedy, but sometimes you feel it's an avoidable tragedy, and sometimes when you see situations like this happen, it shows you the desperation of some people in society due to the compounding hardships that we're currently facing. It's actually hardship when petrol prices have nearly quadrupled.
Even though we shouldn't excuse some foolish acts.
Yes.
But of course,
Yeah, even though, definitely, I was reading a story about a Mr. Magia who was trying to get people to not, be involved. And he later found out 2 of his sons had died, that they were involved, 21-year-old and a 20-year-old.
That's really so sad.
And it's truly very, very sad.
That's sad.
Well, Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, who was killed on Wednesday during a chance encounter with Israeli troops, was tracked by an Israeli mini drone as he lay dying in the ruins of the building in southern Gaza, which filmed him slumped in a chair covered in dust, according to video released by Israeli authorities on Thursday. As the drone hovered nearby, the video showed him throwing a stick at the drone in an apparent act of desperation. After an intensive manhunt that lasted for more than a year, the Israeli troops that killed Sinwar were initially unaware that they had caught their country's #1 enemy after a gun battle on Wednesday, Israeli officials said. Intelligence services had been gradually restricting the area where he could operate, the military said on Thursday, after dental records, fingerprints, and DNA testing proved that it was Sinwar.
All right, we'll proceed on that score. Lebanon's Hezbollah militant group said on Friday it is entering a new phase in its fight against invading Israeli troops, as the region continues to reckon with Israel's claim that top Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar has been killed in a battle with Israeli forces in Gaza the previous day. Hamas has still not responded to the Israeli announcement, but its ally, Iran, released a statement commemorating the Palestinian militant leader via his mission to the United Nations. Sinwar was a chief architect of the attack on southern Israel that precipitated the latest escalating conflict in the Middle East.
Well, that will do it on the week that was, but let's take a minute or two to bring you up to date with a couple of stories making the rounds. And we'll start in Oakland with the November 5th election fast approaching. The November 7th election, Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump are setting their sights on the key battleground state of Michigan. Now, on Friday, during her Oakland County appearance, Harris insisted that it was time to end the suffering in the Middle East, while Donald Trump visited one of the nation's only Muslim-majority cities on Friday as the dueling presidential contenders fought for a small but pivotal bloc of Arab-American voters in the swing state. In a rare reference to Israel's fight against Hamas and Hezbollah, Harris said that the death of Commander Yahya Sinwar can and must be a turning point. Her supporters also chanted "lock them up" when the Democratic nominee told the crowd at a Michigan rally on Friday that Trump was an unserious man.
All right, former President Donald Trump paced the stage in silence for several minutes during a rally Friday night in Detroit as his microphone cut out. The crowd chanted "USA" and "We love Trump" in support. But with no microphone, Trump simply wandered around the stage. Looking frustrated, his back was turned to most of his audience at times. Trump is particularly attuned to the production and visuals of his event and has been known to seethe over technical glitches. Aides are known to travel with multiple backup mics and carefully prepare the flags that typically decorate its stages. It took almost 20 minutes, but aides were able to replace the Republican nominee's mic after he remained in silence on stage, pacing back and forth.
Well, that's all on the week that was.